Hello, this is Mr. Bacon Bits, and welcome back to Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition. This is the introduction to the rather large adventure mode, which you'll be spending most of your time playing on this game. This has hundreds of missions to choose from and tons of things to unlock, such as new characters, new weapons, and upgrades for all existing characters. But first, the in-game intro, which is just like the first Zelda on NES. A long, long time ago, Ganon, the Prince of Darkness, stole the Triforce of Power. He used that power to invade the kingdom of Hyrule and make it his own. He then released 8 monsters into the world in order to solidify his rule. Go, Link! Defeat Ganon and his minions! The treasures down here are just some of the items you'll be using on your adventure. How are these items used? Well, let me explain how adventure mode works first. Starting with the basic adventure map, you can see that it's a grid map based on the first Zelda's overworld map. Each square on the grid is a different mission, with the color showing the difficulty. It starts at black, which are the squares surrounding Link, then goes from green, to yellow, to purple, to orange, to blue, and then finally red as the most difficult. Up at the top it shows the rewards you can get from the mission. The treasure box shows things you can find by exploring within the mission and capturing keeps or finding secrets. The bronze battle victory box shows what you get just for clearing the mission. Finally, the A rank victory box is just that, what you'll earn for getting an A rank on the mission. So this initial mission here just has a heart container for Impa if you play as her on the mission and get an A rank. For clearing a mission, you may unlock subsequent squares on the map. It just depends on the letter ranking that pops up on these arrows. Just a C rank is needed to progress from here. Some missions may also have a restriction on which character you can use. Now, there may be instances where a reward is locked by being grayed out and covered with a question mark. You can meet the requirements but won't get the reward. Similarly, there may be instances where the way forward to the next square is blocked, or you can't enter the mission at all. This is where item cards and search mode come into play. If you have item cards, press X while on a square to enter search mode. Highlight any tile on the square that you think may be off, and use the appropriate item card on said tile to uncover the secret and make the reward or mission available. This process may be easier for those who may be familiar with the Zelda game the map is based on. Item cards can be collected by clearing certain missions, as shown on the overall map, or through the item card shop. Item cards can only be bought at the shop if you've obtained them normally first, but is such a helpful feature compared to previous versions of the game. You had to wait until item cards respawned and then beat the mission again in order to get more, which just made things needlessly tedious. Keep in mind, though, that even though some item cards may appear on the shop, they may not be able to be bought, because they're important to progression. So now for the item cards featured on this map. First is the compass. It reveals where you can use another item card to unlock the reward. If you're following my adventure mode videos, though, this isn't really needed. Next is the bomb. This can be used on walls or rocks. Next is the candle, which burns trees. Next is the ladder, which you'll need to use to cross single tiles of water. Power bracelet, which can be used to push rocks, tombstones, and statues. Water bomb, which is used to bomb rocks on water tiles. Digging mitts, which are used to dig in soft dirt. Ice arrow, which extinguishes circles of fire. Raft, which lets you cross water. Needs to be used on docks. Hookshot, which can be used on targets to reach new squares. Recorder, which is used to find hidden enemies. Finally, the Goddess's Harp, which is used on butterflies to find hidden enemies. Different adventure maps feature different gimmicks and item card sets, so let's get into those as well. First is the Great Sea map, which is based off of Wind Waker. Certain missions have rule sets that will make the missions more difficult, such as don't get hit, double damage, or no attack items. Fortunately, these rule sets can be removed if you have the right item card, so let's talk about them. Returning from the first adventure map, we have the compass and hookshot, which function exactly the same. Next is the Wind Waker, which removes headwinds marked by blue squiggly lines and allows you to reach new missions. Next is the Cannon, which lets you remove warships that enforce rule sets. Next is the Boomerang, which lets you defeat big octos that enforce rule sets. The Hero's Bow, which lets you remove tornadoes that enforce rule sets. The Salvage Arm, which you can use on Rings of Light to uncover the reward. Hioi Pair, which are used on seagulls. Deku Leaf, which are used on windmills. Sea Chart, which are used on sea spray. Power Bracelet, which are used to remove stone heads. Finally, the Hammer, which are used to press giant switches. Moving on to the Master Quest map, it's based on the second quest of the first Zelda, which is essentially a harder version of the same game. So this is basically the same map as the first map, and uses the same set of item cards. The difference is that each square has a rule set that needs to be dealt with in order to win the mission, and you can't get rid of these rule sets. These are Speedrun, No Healing, No Guarding, No Item Attacks, or Don't Get Hit. It's a more difficult version of Adventure Map with different rewards, so brace yourself. Next is the Master Wind Waker map. This is a remixed version of the Great Sea map featuring the same item cards. Like the Master Quest one, this features added Endless Night rule sets to each mission that cannot be removed, such as Speedrun, No Healing, No Guarding, No Fairy Magic, No Special Attacks, No Focus Spirit, and No Fairy Skills. The same removable rule sets can still be found, but will just be an additional rule on top of the Endless Night rule unless removed. Next is the Twilight map, which is based off of Twilight Princess. Certain squares will be covered in flecks of Twilight, which enforce special rule sets, such as no special attacks, no focus spirit, or no item attacks. Thankfully, if a Tear of Light item card is used on these squares, it'll remove the Twilight, and subsequently the rule set. Let's get into the item cards for this map. First, as always, is the compass. You know what it's used for. Next is the lantern. Use it on torches to reveal hidden enemies. Next is the bomb. Use it to destroy boulders and reveal hidden staircases. Next is the jar. Place it on switches to reveal hidden staircases. Next is the fishing rod. Catch fish swimming in water with this. Next is the claw shot. Use it on a distant object to pull yourself towards it. The spinner, used on cog-shaped holes to reveal hidden staircases. The water bomb, used on rocks submerged in water tiles. Digging mitts, used on soft earth to uncover hidden stairways. Uku, used on green portals to warp to another location. Tears of Light, used to remove Twilight covering a square. Finally, Tears of Twilight, obtained by removing all the Twilight from the map, can be used to bring the Twilight back. I guess just in case if you want things more difficult, I suppose. Next is the Termina map, which is based off of Majora's Mask. The main gimmick of this map is the timer and the looming moon overhead. It has a certain amount of hours, and ticks down by 1 with every mission entered. If the timer reaches 0, your progress through the map will be reset, except for any rewards obtained. To counter this, there are map tiles with owl statues. Activate these owl statues to permanently open the square, that way you can move to those squares immediately if a reset happens. Let's get into the item cards. As usual, the compass. It works exactly as you think it would. Next is the Deku Mask. Use it on flowers to access a neighboring square normally inaccessible. Next is the Goron Mask. Use it to pound switches and reveal enemies. Next is the Zora Mask. Use it on whirlpools to reveal enemies. The Mask of Truth can be used at any square to double your defense for one battle. Majora's Mask can be used anywhere to fill your magic and SP gauges for one battle. Deku Stick can be used on torches to reveal enemies. Bomb can be used on boulders to reveal staircases. Ice Arrow is used on circles of flame. Song of Time can be used to force a reset. Inverted Song of Time can be used to add 10 hours to the clock. Finally, a giant item card. The objective of this map is to collect all 4 giant item cards and use all of them on the clock tower square to reach the end. Next is the Coholent Island map, which is based off of Link's Awakening. The gimmick and goal for this map is to awaken the Windfish and beat the final stage. To do so, you need to collect the instruments of the Sirens and use them all against the nightmares strewn about the map. Working on the item cards, first is the compass, used the same as before. Next is Grandpa O'Rira, used on phone booths. Next is the power bracelet, used to push boulders out of the way. Next is the magic powder, used to set fire to torches. The rest of the item cards are the instruments, which also provide added effects for all squares on the map for 3 turns when used on a nightmare. The Full Moon Cello fills your special gauge. The Conch Horn halves damage taken for a short time. The Sea Lily Bell fills your magic gauge. The Surf Harp increases experience points earned. The Wind Marimba increases rupee drop rate. The Coral Triangle increases food drop rate. More on food later. The Organ of Evening Calm increases material drop rate. Finally, the Thunder Drum increases weapon drop rate. Next is the Grand Travels map, which is based off of both Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks. This is separated into 2 sections that do not connect to each other, at least normally. As such, there's actually 2 different starting points, the Spirit Tracks side on the west, or the Phantom Hourglass side on the east. The big gimmick of this map is the Phantom Hourglass in the middle. Every 3 battles, some sand falls to the bottom portion. If all the sand has fallen, the only way you can progress is by getting A ranks. Clearing missions featuring a final battle boss description will add more sand to the hourglass. Next, there are 2 kinds of locations in the map, Soul Stones and Linebeck Trading Company. Soul Stones give you an extra item card of the same one used. Linebeck Trading Company lets you trade an item card you don't want for a gold food item. So now for the item cards. First is the compass, as usual. Next is the SS Linebeck. It increases the rank you'll get for KO count for 3 turns, making it easier to get higher ranks. Next is the Iron Ship. It increases the rank you'll get for completion time for 3 turns. Next is the Golden Ship. It increases the rank you'll get for damage taken for 3 turns. Spirit Train will cause all routes to be unlocked via C rank for 3 turns. Steel Train adds up to 2 randomly selected recommended elements, which you can use to boost your attack accordingly. It lasts for 3 turns. Golden Train will actually remove the character restriction for 3 turns. Railway Track is used on severed railways. Cyclone Slate is used on golden frogs to reveal hidden enemies. Whirlwind is used on windmills to reveal hidden enemies. Fishing Rod is used to retrieve fish from water. Finally, the Cannon is used to reveal hidden rewards. Next up is the Lowrule map, which is based off of A Link Between Worlds, which was also heavily based off of A Link to the Past, so consider it a double whammy. This map is separated into 2 and only linked by certain fissures found in some squares. West side is Hyrule, east side is Lowrule. Another feature is the Ravio board, which holds up to 2 Nice Powers. Nice Powers are gained by using item cards, and mostly add recommended elements. Let's look at the item cards. Surprisingly, compasses aren't a thing here. Instead, wall paintings are used on fissures to pass between the two sides of the map, and add a darkness element to the Ravio board. Next is the Tornado Rod, used on tiles and adds a dark element. Next is the Sand Rod, used on sand mounds and adds a fire element. Fire Rod is used on ice statues and adds a fire element. Ice Rod is used on fire statues and adds a water element. Baby Maiamai is given to Mother Maiamai and adds a water element. Boomerang is used on crystals and adds a lightning element. Power Glove is used on rocks and adds a lightning element. Bow is used on Beamos and adds a light element. Hookshot is used on targets and adds a light element. Bomb is used on cracked walls and increases rupee drops. Finally, Hammer is used on wooden posts and increases attack power. That's about it for all the main maps. There's one more called the Rewards map, but this one works differently. For one, not all the squares contain missions. Rather, it's the ones dimmed out. These missions unlock by completing illustrations, which are from finding gold sculptulas. I will detail what illustration is required for each one and which sculptulas to find on their own videos. But some of these missions also unlock new costumes, so that'll be fun. These may be significantly harder to get A ranks on than normal. But with that, that's all of the Adventure Mode maps. There's at least a couple more things I want to cover, though. First is how I'm going to approach Adventure Mode videos. Each mission will be its own video, and I will first show what you need to do to unlock all rewards, and then show an A rank run of said mission. The thumbnails for each will be as follows. These thumbnails will be designed in such a way so that you should be able to instantly tell which mission they are, as I will be labeling them by letter vertically, and then number horizontally. So that means mission A1 would be the square at the top left of the map. Finally, to close off this video, I want to talk about the My Fairy mode, which is something that will make clearing missions wildly easier. By collecting a fairy hidden in an Adventure Mode mission, you will be able to raise it as your very own and help you out in battle. You start off with 5 fairy slots, but can get an extra slot by clearing a Dark Ruler Adventure Mode mission, so you can have up to 14 slots. The dining room lets you use food you find in Adventure Mode and feed it to your fairy, increasing her stats shown on the graph on the bottom right, her level, as well as raising her affinity to a certain element that she can obtain at certain levels. Influencing those elements will affect her fairy magic ability, which I'll get into shortly. You can figure out which element she might obtain by pressing Y. Feeding her food that she likes or wants will increase her trust, as shown by the number next to the heart. Trust can go higher than the displayed 100. Next is the salon. You can put on any clothing you find in Adventure Mode and dress her up. This isn't just for fashion though, as certain clothing items boost her abilities, such as increasing damage dealt with a certain element with her fairy magic. I will show where these fairy clothing items can be found when applicable in Adventure Mode videos. Finally is the school. This is where you have your fairy learn and select skills. You can highlight a skill to see what stats you need in order to permanently learn it, and you use food to raise those stats. You can equip up to 4 fairy skills at a time depending on her level, and are selected and used the same way as item attacks during battle. So with all that said, a fairy can only reach a maximum of level 99. At that point, she will stop gaining stats from food, meaning you won't be able to learn more skills. At this point, you have the option to refresh her. This will reset her level to 1, her fairy magic elements are reset, fairy magic damage increases by 1%, you can change out one of her stats and her name if you desire, and all stats are reset to their base traits plus 10% of the value, meaning you can go a bit further in increasing those stats. Theoretically, with enough refreshes, you could have a fairy learn every single skill, making her an all-around powerhouse. But it requires a metric ton of grinding, and it may be more practical to just make each fairy specialized in something. The refresh counter maxes at 999, but you can still refresh after the fact. So, when taking your fairy out to battle, you can make use of her equipped fairy skills by selecting it among your attack items and pressing ZR. And you can also use her fairy magic by using your own magic gauge. When you have enough magic to use it, press in the right stick and your fairy will unleash a magic bomb, blasting everything in a wide radius. It also leaves a radius of effect for a while where it was detonated. The effects inside that radius are affected by the elements she learns, and the radius increases by her level as well. Bombos, which is fire, lowers defense of enemy troops within the radius. Ether, which is water, raises defense for allied troops within range. Quake, which is lightning, lowers speed for enemy troops within range. Shine, which is light, restores health for allied troops within range. Finally, Shade, which is darkness, inflicts damage on enemy troops within range. You can mix and match two of these elements, or you can combine two of the same elements to strengthen the effect. Okay, I believe that is everything regarding Adventure Mode. It was a bit of a lengthy explanation, but I felt it was necessary before diving into the mode proper. This has been Mr. Bacon Bits with Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition. Stay safe, happy and healthy, and I'll see you guys later.